When purchasing a home, making a mistake is costly. So today, we're going to talk about the top 3 mistakes that most buyers make. If you want to hear that and more, stay tuned.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 3 ugliest mistakes that buyers make on the regular, and it can cost them. So you don't want to miss this part of it. Before I get to that, let me introduce my partners, my friends, the Lyons Group. To my left, Paul, hand me the rock, Barry, Melissa Glasgow, Aspen the Ninja, Gruen, and the boss, Shannon, Martin Martinez. Welcome to this episode of The Den, top brokers taking on tough questions. So we regularly work with buyers, obviously, in our line of business, and we tend to see mistakes that come up time and time again. And it's one of those things that, since we're seeing patterns over the years, it would be helpful for our listeners to understand what are some of the biggest mistakes you can make, because they can be pretty costly. So, Melissa, I know you've worked with a ton of buyers over the years. But lay it on us. What are the top 3 mistakes that you see and why they can be costly to buyers?
Sure. So the first one is lying or not disclosing what you spend your money on or your financial history. So your lender is going to be the one that does the deep dive into your finances for your approval, and something will come up. It might be a collection. Maybe you didn't know about it, but it has to get taken care of for you to qualify for this loan. It could be anything that could change your debt to income ratio to where you no longer qualify for a loan. My point is, the lender's going to find it, and you want that disclosed upfront in the beginning, because you don't want to go 30 days into a 45-day contract and then tell seller, "Oh, sorry, I don't qualify for my loan anymore because I have whatever debt."
Something popped up. Now, oftentimes lenders catch all that up front.
Yeah.
But sometimes things slip through, especially like tax collections, right? Those may not be on the credit report, but they get picked up by title.
Yeah.
So those are the things you're talking about. What about extending credit right before?
Exactly. That's going to be another one is don't change your debt to income ratio. Okay, you're going to need a truck because you're moving. Don't buy it before you close.
Yeah.
Don't go buy a bunch of furniture on credit before you close. Just wait. Just be patient, because that's 2 of my 3. That'll torpedo it right away.
Yeah.
So
number 2 is actually extending credit. During the process of buying the home. Yep.
Exactly. And these are not good, because your seller has good faith in you that you've been through the process.
Sure.
Finishing up your contingencies, and then, you don't want to do that to your seller.
Yeah, you don't want to self-inflict a wound.
Exactly.
Through the process. And then it's no one's fault but your own at that point. And you've got to take that right on the chin.
Yeah. And now you can't buy a house for 6 more months because you decided to buy that $60,000 truck or what.
Yes, and potentially lose earnest money, and you've lost all your money up to that point for inspections, things like that. That's 2 really good ones.
And of course I'm going to be biased on this, but if you refuse to lean on your realtor for advice, or, for any questions that you may have, we're here to help you through that process. We have already sold, let's pick a number, 15 houses in the last 6 months. I appreciate that you're going to your parents who bought their one house 35 years ago. Things have changed. Please lean on your folks, but also lean on the people who have done it a handful of times in the last couple of months. So really lean on your realtor and trust our expertise in guiding you through this process.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. We all have had those clients where, my Uncle Henry sells real estate in Nebraska, and he said da da da, and wonderful. The more eyes, the more opinions you can get.
Yeah,
wonderful, good for you. But don't let that be the driving force for your decisions, right? You're working with a realtor, a professional for a reason.
Yeah.
His advice may not be relative
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, how many times over the years, Shannon, have we heard that where we're going, oh my gosh, so, the uncle did show up, and which is fine, great.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it can derail and move us into the weeds where we don't belong, right? And that's okay if you get in the weeds and get back out, but sometimes it keeps buyers in the weeds.
And asking questions is a good thing. So that getting all these different opinions, and then ask your realtor and see if it's relevant, because it might be, but it also might not be.
Exactly. If you want to buy a house and your lender says that, yes, you can do this, you can afford this, don't let somebody else's opinion of what it was like in the 80s defer you from that goal.
Excellent point. Very well said. Aspen, you have anything what are your top three? Walk us through your top three.
Yeah, so mine are actually all different.
Yeah?
Melissa's, which,
I love it.
yeah, which
Great.
kind of makes sense because I do primarily work with sellers. So we have that. But I do work with buyers as well. A lot of the times, though, these buyers are not necessarily first-time home buyers, maybe one or two through the year.
Yeah.
But mainly they're on their second plus home.
Sure.
So I would say the first thing is when they're trying to do it themselves, especially whenever it comes from an investment standpoint. You can listen to every podcast, you can watch every video you want, all the YouTube videos, but ultimately, these things might not even work or be relevant in this area. So why would you try and do it yourself whenever you can just have a partner in this, not, just helping you get through it? And I'm not talking partner where they're going to pitch in money or anything, but a realtor on your side to help you run the numbers, help run any cost analysis that might come up. So I would say just trying to do everything yourself is
the number one biggest
mistake because we're here to help you. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So, and we want to see you succeed. You being successful, ultimately, I hope that I can have an investor come to me and we can have a successful relationship, because if they're successful, they're probably going to want to get more, which is successful for me. It's a symbiotic relationship. So I would say that is the first biggest mistake for my buyers personally.
Well, I mean, there's nothing like this being the biggest transaction in most people's lives. Like, why wouldn't you want to get in the ring with someone that has, it's got your back, that has done it?
Yeah.
So going out and doing that yourself is pretty daunting. A lot of people take it on because they think they're going to save some money or whatever else, or whatever their motivations are. But that's a great point. Number two.
So this is more for personal residences. I see people get approved, for sometimes large amounts of money, or let's be realistic, all home buying is large amounts of money.
Sure.
But buying at your very top that you can afford, I think I was looking at what the numbers were, and it said you can get for your debt to income ratio up to 57%. So that's not all home, but that's your credit card debt, your car debt, everything. Man, you're going to be strapped.
Yeah.
So I think, you hear the term house poor. I think that's a really big mistake, especially if you're looking to get into the investment game. You do not want to be purchasing at the top of your income level or the top of what you're approved for, because what if you want to get an investment property? Now you can't, because all your money's tied up in your personal residence. And that's pretty much the only way out of that is either sell or make more money. So, it makes it a little bit hard for that.
To kind of piggyback off of that, for first timers, they want the best, but just because they're at the top end, something's going to happen. Something might happen within the first year. And if you don't have the funds because you're at your top end and all of your expenses, you're going to be really heartbroken, and you're going to regret maybe even buying a house if you have to redo all the plumbing or something.
Yeah, the furnace goes out or whatever else. And you're banking stuff. So I've heard this a lot lately. I'm banking on the interest rates to go down. I'm going to buy now and kind of strap myself, banking on the interest rates to go down, which I think is a faulty mentality, because you're giving yourself no room to allow for things like that. The furnace to go out, the roof to need some attention, or whatever else that comes into play.
We've been hearing that a lot, where it's marry the house, date the rate, which sure.
Yeah.
But can you date that rate for years? We don't know.
Yeah.
None of us know. So I think that's kind of a risky mindset. I get it. But if you can't comfortably afford it, it's probably not a good idea for you.
Not a savvy financial move
Yep.
at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
So I would
Great.
say,
Top two.
and if you're a first-time home buyer and you're approved for X amount, it might be more towards the top. But if you're really young and you're gonna be getting pay raises, it might be. There's different scenarios that are gonna make sense. But like I said, that's not really who I primarily work with.
Yeah.
And the last one is not getting pre-approved early enough. So kind of goes hand in hand. You think you can afford this, but you forgot to account for PMI, private mortgage insurance, and now you actually can afford all these houses you've been looking at and you were really excited about, and we're having to drop your budget, which we all know.
Yeah.
You go from, it seems to be like $10,000, it just makes a huge difference in certain price points.
Yes.
So I would say you should get pre-approved unless you have been doing it forever and ever and you really truly know you can get approved for. I would say get that pre-approval early.
Yeah. Excellent top 3 mistakes that buyers make. And that the third one parlays into what we see, Shannon, in the sense that you've beat this drum over the years that we have an obligation as realtors to the sellers that we're showing these properties, that we're doing the vetting up front with these buyers, that they really truly need to be pre-qualified before we're out shopping for homes. What are your thoughts on that? What are your top 3?
Well, I don't want to take anybody in a house that they can't buy. I think it's a waste of the seller's time. It's a waste of the buyer's time. It's a waste of my time. If I don't know that they can afford that house, I am not going to ask that seller to straighten up your house, get it prepared, leave the house, pack up your dog.
Pack up your dogs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And stay gone for 2 hours in our window of time.
Yeah.
And let us look through, and then they'll decide if they like it well enough. They'll decide to go ahead and put an application in.
Yeah.
I don't think that's appropriate. I think we do have an obligation as realtors to only bring someone in your house that is truly a potential buyer for that house. That is my number one, is pre-qualification. So I'm with you on that. But one of the reasons it's my top one is because I think that sometimes people don't realize you're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't get pre-qualified. It's not just about the other person. It's also about your needs. If you look for 2 months online, maybe you visit some open houses, you kind of know what you want. Now you found the one and you're ready to make the move on it. And then you run down and you talk to a lender. Now you're in crunch time. Whereas before, maybe you could have talked to them and found out, hey, I qualify for USDA. I should just been looking right outside the city limits and I didn't have to worry about this down payment. But this one I can't afford the down payment on, You know what programs you fall into, how much money you need to have up front for that. Do I need to ask that seller for something? So do I come in with a strong offer or not? So I think that people don't really understand. You can't start renegotiating your terms after you got under contract. And you certainly don't even want to do that after you found the one.
Yeah.
You want to know what you can do. So I think that people shoot themselves in the foot. If you don't know what you can do before you look, you're just setting yourself up.
Yeah. It's like showing up to the riverbank and be like, look at all the fish.
Wish I'd have brought my pole
or shotgun or stick of dynamite. I don't know. I mean,
come back and the fish are gone.
The fish are gone. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that is definitely my number one.
What a good analogy.
That's great. Right. So the other thing is emotional decisions. I think that is a huge problem with buyers, especially first-time home buyers. Am I stealing all of it?
All the falls of it.
I might have
just
one.
step out. You can. And we'll finish without you.
Right in your list.
We think alike.
So that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. I think that a lot of times, you'll see a buyer, like we talk about, getting down in the weeds. Maybe they go through the inspection process, they find a dozen things. The seller looks at it and says, yeah, sure, I'll fix the leaky pipes, get that heater looked at, make sure that we paint up that trim that we need to pass the appraisal, but I'm not too worried about that faucet being, cracked on the handle or whatever. And the buyer gets very emotional about it. Well, welcome to home ownership. Once you buy that house, you're probably going to be running to Home Depot anyway a couple of times for things that you want. Why let that be a sticking point? Think of it as a business. You have to love the house. You have to live there. So there is some emotion that goes into it, but it is a business transaction. And what makes sense? It might make sense paying more ahead of time. It might make sense not paying ahead of time for your down payment, things like that. Look at it as a business transaction. Don't let your emotions get in the way, because people get really wrapped up in, I don't like the other realtor, so, they can keep their house.
A dear
good.
Yeah, a dear good friend of mine, former president of the state, Paul Wilson. He would say this. He would say, when I work with buyers, I caution them, if they want something really bad, they were likely to get something exactly what they want, really bad. And so it was a way to check your emotions at the door. He would use that to explain to buyers, like, you need to check your emotions at the door. So I think it's a very valid point.
Because we talked about, you just mentioned it earlier, it is the largest transaction that someone's going to make in their life, usually is buying or selling their house. So treat it as a wise business investment. Don't get too wrapped up in the emotions. You don't have to like the seller. You don't have to like what they had in the house. You don't have to like that they didn't want to fix some things. If they're not a big deal, and it's the one, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
makes
it's
sense.
okay. It's okay to do that.
Yep.
So that would be my second one. My third one is don't keep waiting for the unicorn, especially if it's your first house and you're looking on a budget. You do want to get what you want in a house. It is important to get what you want in a house. And we all encourage that. And we try to look through dozens of houses to find that for someone. But if it doesn't check every box, it checks most boxes, don't get too far in that it's not the one, because you've seen those people that might be looking like they've called me over and over for like 3 years and they're looking again and they're looking again and they can never find anything. And that's okay if that's really their motivation where they want to be. But the truth is how many opportunities they're staying renters all these years waiting for the exact fit. The exact fit may not be there. Maybe it's just a fit for 5 years, and that might make sense. So I see a lot of that. Some people just waiting on the sidelines, constantly waiting for the perfect opportunity. I have to wait till the time where I can sell high and buy low. Well, it's either buyer or seller market. You're not doing both.
There was nothing more glaring than these last couple of years where the market went through the roof, and we had buyers that exactly in that situation that were waiting and waiting and waiting. And by the time they were ready to get in the game, the prices had, some situations had gone up 40% or 50%. And it was just heartbreaking to see that. So, I mean, very, very good point. Get into the game. Don't wait for that unicorn because, like you said, at some point, it's just maybe just a stepping stone for you. But every month you pay rent, you're paying how much interest?
100%.
100% interest.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to get in.
Don't settle to where you're not going to be happy with it. But, but I know my first house I bought was in Kirtland, New Mexico, which isn't the prettiest place in the world, but it was a great investment.
Sure.
And I lived there for 5 years. And by the time I sold it, I made a fortune off of it.
You did really well.
And I was able to buy a house in a neighborhood that I wanted, exactly what I wanted. And I had enough of the investment in there to be able to have the cash to do that. It was a great first. And truly, I didn't mind. It was a little bit more of a drive to get to work. But other than that, it was a great little house.
Yeah.
It worked out very nice for me. So don't get too caught up in all the little things. Sometimes pick something that's a good investment.
Understood. Great points. Paul, Barry, round us out here. What? Top 3. I know Shannon stole the top 2 from we know she stole them.
I don't have anything. You were looking at my notes.
I did.
So I'll just read them off. I had looking at homes before you've talked to a lender, before you're pre-qualified. That's the best way to be heartbroken right away. Negotiating on emotions. I always tell buyers when I go in there, when we look at this house, if you can accept it as it is right now, the seller does no repairs, let's write an offer. But if you're going to go in there and say, I'm going to make this offer, but they're going to do the roof, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to end up saying no to one of those.
Yeah.
And if you're going to back out because of that, we probably should keep looking.
Yeah.
It just may not be the one.
Well, that's a good point too. I mean, a lot of our job as realtors is to not tamper expectations, but
That realistic.
Yeah.
set real. Thank you, Aspen. Yeah.
Show them that it's not about HGT.
Yeah. I mean, we don't.
Get out of my head.
It's one. That was in the She did.
Because can I go then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the next one is, we see the HGTV and they say, I work at the post office. I make, $50,000 a year. My budget is $3 million.
Yeah.
I tear all these walls down.
Yeah.
So when you go in and looking at a house and you just say, this space doesn't work for me, we'll just tear this wall down. We'll move this back. And I've asked numerous buyers to say, have you ever done that before?
Yeah.
Do you have a contractor that you work with? Like, well, no, but I've seen it on TV. Like, that's no reason to buy a house.
Yeah.
Just keep it.
Kind of on that note too, like whenever you're going into a house and the only thing you're thinking about is how you're going to tear it down with the studs.
It's probably not the one.
It's probably not the one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody
Could be just
Yeah.
I'm like that.
There's
Yeah.
always good.
But yeah.
The average person doesn't know how to do
They
that.
don't. No.
And they don't know what it really costs and what it entails.
Expensive.
And you ask them, what's a load bearing wall? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I
Yeah.
can't just take this wall out?
Mm-hmm.
We need to switch. We need to pivot here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, Paul, on the emotional negotiating, there are sometimes whenever a buyer just wants to stick it to the seller. No, I want the carpet cleaned. Oh, yeah, we're going to rip it out anyways, like the day after closing.
Yeah.
Wow. Don't do that.
You don't want to feel like a winner. That's
Yeah.
the
They
problem.
do.
And the problem is that it has to be a win for both sides.
does.
So you're not going to get everything that you want every time.
Exactly.
You know, make it about a good business. If you're getting enough
Yeah.
and it works, it's a good deal.
You know, I came into this not thinking about the emotional side of it. But you make a very valid point. How many times have we seen people lose good deals over something silly where they just emotions gotten away and they're walking away from the perfect home over someone not steam cleaning the carpet?
Well, how many
Yeah.
times have we heard, think about it honestly, they can just keep their house.
Yeah.
That's not the right mindset.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, sure, they can keep their house, but that means you don't get their house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Back to looking. Paul, you were going to say something else there?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. I know you raised your hand there for a second.
I had an idea, but they go out as quickly as they come in. So
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to round out the discussion for my top 3 as well. And I actually didn't write anything down because I don't want any of you sneaking my answers.
That's just better.
Shannon.
Yeah,
Right.
Ben,
You're more of an idea.
I just fly by the seat of my pants, basically.
it
So
shows.
I wanted to hear everyone's thoughts and then kind of round out mine. And I think the number one thing is, first and foremost, get pre-qualified for your loan. And it really is, we have an obligation. If we're going to show these buyers properties, they need to be able to afford these properties. We can't just go out willy-nilly and get on site to a home and just rely on, well, I'm pretty sure I can afford this, right? Just education gives you power there. The second thing is, I do think the emotions, now we're talking about emotions, are a big player in this. And so whether it's your uncle bending your ear, your mom and dad, or whatever, rely on your realtor, they're your partner in this transaction. But the third thing I'm going to throw this out there. No one said this yet. Do not jump around realtors.
Yeah.
In other words, we work with people sometimes and they have this person show them a home and this person showing them a home and they kind of put the word out to everybody thinking that will help their case.
Mm-hmm.
And it really works against them
We were
because,
just talking about this morning.
yeah, it's just one of those things that, like, if I catch word that I'm putting time and energy into this, I'm going to try to find you the best deal I can and a great property. And then I find out you're working with this person and this person and this person. I go, wait a minute. Why am I going to invest my time and energy in finding you the perfect home when you aren't loyal to me? So anybody want to jump in on that? But I really think
We've seen a lot of cases where people say that they'll say, well, I figure if I've got everybody in town looking for me, I'm not going to miss a thing. I'm going to find the best deal.
sure.
That's not true. You're probably going to get a lot of people that aren't going to waste their time with you.
Yeah.
I think I think it's important because a lot of consumers don't understand how real estate works and how we cooperate with each other, but we also compete with each other. And it's a very interesting dynamic in the marketplace. But my recommendation is find a realtor you trust. Now, if you work with one, you don't jive, and find another one that you just don't, but you find that one, work with that one, commit to that realtor, sign a buyer's broker agreement where they have that realtor is working for you and you're working with them hand in hand, lockstep. Then you're setting yourself up to big success. So, quick speed round to finish this conversation. I was going to say the top 3, but what do you think going around the table, your number one biggest buyer mistake? Paul, start us off here.
Looking at homes outside of their price range. They're going too high. They fall in love with a house that they cannot afford. And then everything else they look at doesn't cut it.
Great point. Melissa?
Not knowing your financial wellness.
That's a good one around.
Know what you can afford.
Yes. Understanding the picture.
Yeah.
Yep. Aspen?
Number one, trying to do it yourself. You need a team around you. Just makes it so much smoother and easier, and you can move so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. And you may be not thinking about things that other people are. And that's a good thing. Shannon?
Requalification
Get your
is the top most important thing to do.
pre-qualification done. That's probably my biggest mistake, I would say as well. So now if you're looking to purchase, there's your mistakes. Avoid those at all costs because, heaven's sakes, those can be costly mistakes. So on to my favorite part of the podcast, and that's where we talk about the Lyons Pride. As you know, this is the Lyons Group. We focus on making our community better, our industry better, and we like to support and recognize those that do the same outside of our group. and welcome them to the Lyons Pride. Melissa Glasgow,
Yes.
let's go. Tell us who's on the Pride today.
Randy West is the director of the theater at the Civic Center, the city of Farmington. And not only is he continually bringing really great shows to our area that we can participate and, go watch and enjoy with our families, there's also the Heather McGoy Children's Program and Academies. Every year there is 2 children's performances. The one coming up next is Newsies Junior, and it's for local kids. And during that time, they also get to learn things about theater, and it just enriches our community. And if you've gone to a show where we have local kids in these productions, there's a ton of kids who love it. And Randy West puts his heart and soul into these programs. So shout out to Randy West. Go see Newsies. It's coming out February 15th through 17th. So
I love
Civic
it.
Center, go to fmtn.org/Civic Center.
Oh, I love that you did this. I don't know if you guys all know, but I did graduate with honor thespian.
Wow.
That you have that.
You were in drama.
I was.
Yeah.
Still.
Still drama. Oh, sorry.
Still.
Yeah. She that was a smooth transition right into real estate. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I got to tell you. So is Randy, let me just for clarification, is Randy the gentleman? We went and watched, it was the art show in the near Christmas time, and it was art fabulous. It was wonderful. Is Randy the gentleman that comes down at the beginning of the show and says, "Welcome, everybody"? Yes.
He is wonderful. He presents each show personally without a microphone. And at the end of the show, before you even get to all the actors where you can shake their hands and congratulate them, Randy's there at the door as well. So make sure you thank Randy for everything that he
I got to tell you, the spirit that guy has and the passion he has for bringing really cool events like that to our community. Well done, Melissa. Great pick.
Great.
Mr. West, if you are listening to the Lyons Group and this podcast, we want to tell you we see you. We thank you for all you're doing in our community, and we want to welcome you to the Lyons Pride. So thank you for that. Very special. Next episode, we're going to be talking about remodeling ROI. Where do you put your money if you're going to put your money into your home? What's some of the top areas you should be considering? So you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. And I want to thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Top brokers taking on tough questions. And until next time, we'll see you at the next Den.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the Den.